Welcome to your Aged Care Compass podcast. Join us to find out how to support your older loved ones at home. We're going to help you make sense of Australia's aged care system. We talk about legal and financial considerations for ageing and how chronic health conditions impact your older loved ones' well-being. And we share real-life stories of where it went wrong for people and how we got them back on track.
Today we're discussing care plans, specifically in the context of home care packages. Every person who is receiving a home care package should have a care plan that reflects their needs and goals and includes the kind of support that will enable the older person to fulfil those needs or goals. As a team of nurses, care planning is central to our approach for keeping older people well and able and living independently in their own home for as long as possible. Coral, tell us how a person would come to have a care plan.
When a person is assigned their home care package shell, they have 56 days to choose a provider who will administer the package. Within those 56 days, the recipient of the package will enter into a service agreement or a home care agreement with their chosen provider. Essentially, this is a contract, and both the older person receiving the package and the provider will sign this agreement. Within 14 days of signing the agreement, the provider is required to develop a care plan. The care plan should be completed with the involvement of the older person and their family member or carer, if indicated. The Department of Health and Aged Care's website notes letting the older person decide how involved they want to be in planning their care. But from my perspective, it's not negotiable. The older person and their family or carer must be involved in the planning of their care.
Yep. Consumer-directed care underpins the approach to care planning, doesn't it, Coral? What does this mean?
So consumer-directed care is just that shell. The consumer, being the recipient of the home care package, should be encouraged to direct the kind of services and support they'd like to receive to help them at home. These services and support will be what the package funding or subsidy will be spent on. It's not okay for the provider to develop a care plan without the involvement of the older person and their family member or carer, if indicated.
Yep. And we've seen this where a provider has dismissed the older person wanting to have input into their care plan, and the provider saying they'll just use the care plan they've already developed.
Yeah, we have seen this, though, look, it's not common, Shell, thankfully, but it's not okay for a provider to dismiss the older person if they are wanting to have input into their care plan. And it's certainly not okay for a provider to use a generic care plan or a generic approach to planning the care of the older person because it's about their specific needs.
Exactly. And it's not a one-size-fits-all.
No, it's not.
So how should a care plan be set out? And what should be included in a care plan?
So when I'm creating a care plan, I include as much detail as possible to give a complete picture of what the older person needs to remain as well and able as possible. I always encourage people to supply their provider with a GP health summary. Some people do feel uncomfortable with this, saying their medical history is confidential, but not having the person's health conditions included in the care plan limits the scope for optimised service provision. As a nurse, seeing a person's health conditions means that I can reasonably predict the trajectory of a person's health journey. It means I can take an educated guess at what the person might need in the future. It also allows me to look at what strategies we can implement now to help the older person retain their independence and mitigate some functional decline we would see if the older person didn't address their health needs.
Yep.
The care plan should include any assistance the older person might need with their day-to-day activities, and that might be assistance with personal care, meal preparation, transport assistance, domestic assistance, any maintenance required around the house, and any clinical support and associated equipment or modifications of the home that would make things easier for the older person. This would also include addressing pain, continence issues, mobility issues, and declining strength and balance.
Yeah, so there's a whole lot that can be included there.
There is, yes.
So should the initial ACAT assessment be referenced by the provider for developing a care plan?
It should, if this is the first care plan that the older person is having drafted. But as time goes on and the older person's needs change, it may not be appropriate to keep referencing the ACAT assessor's summary. So 5 years down the track, if the provider is still referencing that initial ACAT assessment, I would say that that's probably not appropriate because things will have changed over that time and there should have been at least 5 care plan
Reviews.
exactly over that period of time to reflect the older person's changing needs.
Yep.
And also keeping in mind that the older person may not have disclosed all the information they could have during that ACAT assessment. So taking the time to extract detail during the meeting with the provider will ensure that the care plan is as comprehensive as possible.
FlexiCare is a not-for-profit organisation which supports older people living in Brisbane's southern suburbs to live their best lives in their own homes and communities. FlexiCare don't have grand plans to be the biggest aged care provider. They want to be known for treating each one of their participants as an individual who they get to know well. They answer their phone calls personally when clients ring them. They give their clients easy access to a home care partner who can work with them to deliver the best mix of support possible. If you're in Brisbane South and want to know more, give their friendly team a call on 07 3422 8400 or check out their website flexi.org.au.
And I know people often say to us, I don't know what to include in my care plan. What advice do you give them in this instance?
I always tell people to reflect on what support they might already be receiving from family or friends. The kind of support family and friends offer is often the kind of support a person can use their home care package for, freeing up, the family member's time.
Mm-hmm.
If they have someone mowing their yard, this could be included in the care plan and the package funding could pay for it. People often think about carer support in developing a care plan, but not everyone will need or want carer support. You can use your package funding to support you as your individual needs dictate. You could use your package funding for pre-packaged meals, continence aids, clinical support, or purchases of mobility aids if you like. You could also use your package funding to see a physiotherapist to help manage pain. You could use your package funding to see a podiatrist and have a biomechanical assessment of your feet, possibly being recommended orthotic inserts or orthotic shoes to help with your stability if indicated. What one person will have documented in their care plan will be different to the next person. A care plan should be tailored to the older person's specific needs and goals.
And I can see here, Coral, this is why you're saying a provider should not be using a generic care plan.
Exactly, because everybody is different. And like you already said, Shell, it's not a one size fits all. Every person's care plan should be tailored to their needs.
Yep. So how often should a care plan be reviewed, Coral?
A care plan should be reviewed at least every 12 months, Shell, and whenever there's a significant change in the person's health and well-being, such as a hospital admission. Essentially, if something happens that changes the kind of support or service that the older person needs, the care plan should be updated to reflect this.
And on this point, Coral, is it up to the package provider to start this process, or can the home care package recipient ask for a review?
Look, either or, but really, if the older person's needs are changing, unless they're informing their provider, the provider's not going to know, are they? So the provider won't become aware that they need to do an update of the care plan if they don't know that the older person has had a fall, and has been admitted to hospital. Maybe they've fractured a bone, which means that they might actually need different kind of service provision, different kind of support. So really it comes back to the person themselves, the recipient of the package, or the family member informing the provider that something's changed.
Right.
And then, with those changes, if the person needs different kind of support or increased support, then they would have a discussion with the provider about that, and the provider should initiate a care plan review. And the other interesting point that I'll just bring into this here is during these care plan reviews, particularly if there's been a significant change, this is the point where it might be revealed that the person might need a package upgrade. So
Right.
if the person's on a level 2 package and that's all they've needed for the past 1 or 2 years, and perhaps they've had that fall, they've broken a bone, they've got impaired mobility, they've lost their confidence at this point, and if they're relying more and more on their family to supplement that support that they were getting in that level 2 package, then that would be an indicator for getting a support plan review and requesting an upgrade of a package, potentially going up to a higher level package.
Right. And does the provider charge extra to review and update the care plan?
No, they don't. So developing and updating a care plan is covered within the fee that's called care management that is already charged by the provider.
Okay. And a provider can't change the care plan without discussing any changes with the older person, right?
That's correct, Shell. Yep, the older person and their family carer, if indicated, should always be included if any changes are made.
Do people who are self-managing their home care packages need to have a care plan?
Yes, everyone who receives a home care package must have a care plan. In fact, it's important people who are self-managing their home care packages understand their needs and the scope of service provision available to them so that their care plans are as detailed as possible, because the reliance for engaging services and supports sits with the recipient of the package rather than a coordinator with self-management.
Yes. Oh, thanks, Coral. Great discussion today. I know people are going to find this information helpful, as we're often asked about care plans. Hopefully this gives people an idea of what they should be discussing with their provider. And if they haven't had their care plan reviewed for more than 12 months, it might be time to follow up and have that care plan updated. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love for you to subscribe to our podcast or leave a review if you found the podcast to be of value. We've included our relevant blog posts in the notes too for further reading on care plans.
Hey Care community, thanks for listening to this episode. So you never miss a show, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. If you'd like to know more about what we do, head to our website, cmeacn.com.au.